Raid Beita. Watch this space.
Watch this space.
Settlers, MKs march to demand West Bank outpost legalization. Thousands of settlers stormed Jabal Asabi, south of Nablus, to demand legalization of Beita city occupation. Thousands of settlers today stormed Jabal Sabi area south of the northern West Bank city of Nablus in an attempt to reach the evacuated Beita city occupation. Ghassan Douglas, who monitors settlement activities in the northern West Bank, told Wafa that thousands of settlers organized a march from the Zatara intersection toward the Beita occupation built on top of Jabal Seba. He said at least 7 Zionist ministers and more than 20 members of the Zionist parliament, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and the ultranationalist Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir, took part in the march that aims to demand the legalization of the settlement outpost. The occupation forces were heavily deployed on the road between Ramallah and Nablus today, while checkpoints at Zatara and Hawara obstructed movement and forced vehicles to take longer alternate routes to reach their destination. Zionist army kills Palestinian. Occupiers march to illegal outpost. Occupiers and politicians marched towards Nablus to demand that the outpost be legalized, while the Zionist army shoots a teen in Jericho. A Palestinian child's been killed by Zionist forces in the occupied Jeber refugee camp in Jericho as a settler marched to an illegal occupation near the occupied city of Nablus brought more violence to the West Bank. Mohammed Fayez Balhan, who was 15 years old, was shot in the head, chest, and stomach on Monday. They shot him in the head, the teen's aunt Maysoon said. "What's going to happen to our people? What will happen to us?" The Zionist military said that it had been operating in Jericho's Aqaba refugee camp in an attempt to apprehend Palestinians it suspected of attacks against Zionists, and that its force had responded to being fired at by the subjects. Occupier march. The incident comes as the Zionist army guards thousands of Zionist occupiers marching to the abandoned Beita city outpost to call on the Zionist government to legalize the outpost and to denounce the increased attacks on occupiers and occupations in recent weeks. The mother of 2 Zionist occupiers' sisters killed last week in one such attack died from her injuries, hospital officials said on Monday. Thousands of settlers, led by ministers in Zionist far-right government, have taken part in the march, heavily protected by Zionist forces who closed the march's path to Palestinians, although confrontations were still reported with at least 2 Palestinians injured by rubber-coated bullets and dozens of others treated for inhaling tear gas. Al Jazeera's Samir Abu Shamala said that Palestinians tried to confront the march, which was held under a banner declaring that all of the land of the Zionists was the property of Zionist occupiers, with the settlement implying that that included the occupied West Bank. Abu Shamala added that Palestinians had burned ties and threw stones, and that groups of settlers had begun to leave the site of the march, demanding the legalization of the occupation, which lasted for 3 hours. There's still a heavy deployment of Zionist soldiers, as it's estimated that about 1,000 Zionist soldiers were deployed to secure the occupiers' march, according to Zionist sources, Abu Shamala said. New incursions into Al-Aqsa and Jabal Sabi, according to Globe World News Echo. Yesterday, a Palestinian official reported that thousands of settlers stormed the Jabal Abbas Sebe area south of Nablus, while the Zionist army killed a Palestinian in Jericho in the midst of a campaign of raids and widespread arrests, coinciding with the wider storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque on the eve of the last 10 days of Ramadan. The Palestinian News and Information Agency quoted Hassan Douglas, who's in charge of the settlement file in the northern West Bank, as saying that thousands of settlers organized a march toward the settlement outpost in Beita at the top of Mount Abu Sabeh, with the participation of at least 7 Zionist ministers, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and the extremist Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir, and more than 20 Knesset members. The politicians opposed to the government of the Zionist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticized the march, saying it distracted the security forces from the real work during a tense period. And at a time when the army returned to storm the areas of the West Bank after relative calm, the occupiers escalated their provocations on the 5th day of the Jewish Passover holiday, and 1,531 of them stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque under the protection of the Zionist police. The escalation coincided with the rare warning to the Palestinian Authority of Zionists' premeditated intentions to launch an imminent attack on the Gaza Strip. In a statement at dawn on Monday, it warned of the seriousness of what Netanyahu would do after the end of the Jewish holidays, and called for proactive international positions to prevent these crimes from being committed against the innocent Palestinian people, particularly in the Gaza Strip, including restoring the policy of assassinations against the Palestinian leaders there. It's not clear whether the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has specific information about an imminent Zionist attack on Gaza, or it decided to issue a warning based on special analysis. From almayadeen.net, 216 Palestinians injured during confrontations with settlers. The Palestinian Emergency Services says 216 people were injured in Nablus while confronting a settler rally in Jabal Seba attended by MKs. 2 Israeli settlers, or 2 Zionist occupiers, were injured after they had stones hurled at them in Beita in the northern occupied West Bank. Zionist media reported on Monday amid ongoing confrontations in the area. The Palestine Red Crescent announced that the confrontations in Jabal Seba in the town of Beita in Nablus resulted so far in 216 injuries as young Palestinians confronted the provocative march carried out by Zionist occupiers with the participation of Knesset members and ministers. Thousands of occupiers began storming the Jabal Seba area early in the day. The Palestinian official who monitors the settlements in Nablus, Hassan Douglas, said thousands of settlers organized a rally from the Zatara roundabout toward the Eviatar settlement outpost built on the top of Jabal Seba, with the participation of at least 7 Zionist ministers and more than 20 Knesset members, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Police Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. According to Douglas, the demonstration aimed to demand the legalization of the settlement outpost, or the occupation, as well as respond to the resistance operations the Zionist occupation has claimed. The Zionist occupation forces were heavily deployed on the road between Ramallah and Nablus, while the Zatara and Hawara checkpoints impeded the movement of citizens from time to time. Adding insult to injury, journalists were also subject to brutal assaults at the hands of the Zionist occupation forces while covering the Zionist occupiers' raids. It's worth noting that the illegal Zionist occupiers launched raids in Huwara, Nablus, violently assaulting Palestinians in February, while the Zionist occupation forces were preventing ambulances and crews from preventing ambulance crews from making it to the scene. Extremist occupation groups had called for a march that they called "All of Israel's land is ours. We will return toward the northern West Bank." The Zionist occupied forces licensed the march, with numerous senior officials partaking in it. In a related context, the Islamic Endowments Department in Occupied Al-Quds reported that hundreds of illegal Zionist occupiers stormed on Monday the Holy Al-Aqsa Mosque from the side of Al-Mughrabi Gate, noting that they were under heavy protection from the Zionist occupation forces. The incursion took place on the fifth day of the so-called Jewish Passover holiday. Palestinian press agency Safa pointed out that the occupation forces deployed their special units in Al-Aqsa courtyards and at its gates in preparation for the occupiers' incursions. 672 occupiers, including former Knesset member Foshe Feiglin, stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque in successive groups since morning. The occupiers carried out provocative tours in courtyards and performed Talmudic rituals in the eastern region of the mosque protected by the occupation police, the agency reported. Zionist ministers joined pro-settlement rally in occupied West Bank. Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, Yossi Dagan took part in the rally along with 20 lawmakers of Zionist parliament. A number of Zionist ministers and lawmakers joined a rally on Monday in support of settlement building in the occupied West Bank, reports Anadolu agency. Far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, and the head of the Shomron Regional Council, a body responsible for a block of occupations in the West Bank, Yossi Dagan, took part in the rally, along with 20 lawmakers of the 120-seat Knesset. Participants marched towards Mount Sebe, near Beita town, south of Nablus, where the illegal Beita outpost is established, according to an Anadolu reporter. "We're here in order to say the Zionist people are strong," Ben-Gvir said during the rally. Last month, Zionist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu postponed a decision on the fate of the Zionist outpost until after the fasting month of Ramadan, which will end later this month. The outpost was built by Zionist occupiers in May 2021 near Nablus. Monday's rally was staged amid rising tension across the Palestinian territories after Zionist police last week forcibly removed worshippers from inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex in occupied Al-Quds. Zionist and Palestinian estimates indicate that about 650,000 occupiers are living in 164 occupations and 116 outposts in the West Bank, including in occupied East Jerusalem and occupied Al-Quds. Under international law, all Zionist occupations in occupied territories are considered illegal. Occupiers, MKs marched to demand West Bank outpost legalization. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir have vowed to increase settlement expansion. Thousands of occupiers, members of right-wing organizations, and senior government ministers marched to the illegal West Bank outpost in Beita on Monday, 10 April, demanding the government to allow it to be occupied. Some 20,000 occupiers participated in the march, which was led by Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, along with four of the most senior rabbis in the religious Zionist community. In his speech, Smotrich said that the government would legalize the outpost in the near future. This place will be bustling with life. Occupiers upright, proud, lovers of the land of the Torah, and just like Beita will be formalized, so too will the existing outpost and new occupations, since this is our land, said Smotrich from the event. Beita was first established in 2013, but's been dismantled and rebuilt on several occasions, most recently in 2021, the Beita occupation. As U.S. academic Juan Cole explained, squatting by Zionists on Palestinian land is illegal by the Fourth Geneva Convention and the Rome Statute, but even the Zionist government frowns on Zionists just going off and building homes on Palestinian farms owned by local families. The Zionist government prefers to take away the Palestinians' land itself, exercising a sort of eminent domain and then sending in squatters. Under international law, it's a war crime for the Zionists to usurp the land of the Palestinians it occupies. Smotrich said he was working to legalize over 70 more illegal outposts in an effort to advance Zionist settlements, Zionist occupations of Palestine land. With the law's help, we will bring another 500,000 Zionists here in addition to the 500,000 that are already here, he declared. The Palestinian protesters gathered to demonstrate against the settlers' march, but were dispersed by the Zionist army. 57 Palestinians were injured, according to the Red Crescent Emergency Service. The left-wing Yesh Den organization denounced the march, describing it as a provocation and a Zionist inferiority protest. While the residents of the Palestinian territories are subject to a blockade, masses of settlers will march to raise up the banner of an ideology of expropriation and plunder, the organization said. The participation of government ministers in the march today is more fuel for the burning fire in the occupied territories, where the main victims are, as usual, the Palestinians. Since coming to power in December, in a coalition with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich has vowed to expand settlement construction and the demolition of Palestinian homes, and has called for the Palestinian town of Hawara to be destroyed. And Jewish press has published a list of the Knesset members, some of the Knesset members that participated. So we have Simcha Rothman, Boaz Bismuth, religious Zionist movement leaders, including Zvat Chief Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu, Zvat Chief Rabbi Shemuel Eliyahu, former Chief Rabbi of Hebron and Kiryat Arba Rabbi Dov Lior, Samaria Regional Council Rabbi Eliachim Lebanon, former Chief Rabbi of Ramat Gan Yaakov Ariel, and Yeshivat Har Etzion Rosh Yeshiva Rabbi Yaakov Madan.
عالي.